This is where we come together as data professionals and talk and just see what's going on. What's going on in your life? What are you up to? What are you doing today to improve your data skills? That's it. That's the whole point of life, right? It's the whole point of being a data professional. You got to improve your skills just a little bit at a time, right? You're not going to take big leaps. You're going to take small leaps. So what are you doing today to improve yourself? What are you doing this weekend? What's going on in your life? What are you reading? What are you working on? What are you coding? Let me know. I'm here for all of that. I'm Dennis. I host the Data Roundtable every day, or, as often as I can. I take a couple of breaks here and there. But the whole point is for us to come together as data professionals and talk and just see how we're doing, see what's on your mind, right? What do you got going on? What are you working on? Let me know. Feel free to let me know in the chat. Let me know what you're up to. I'm going to be streaming today here on YouTube and on Instagram. I've been doing 2 streams daily. It's usually at this time, 1500 GMT. So whatever time this is in your time zone, please feel free to join me. Again, I try to do it every day. Turn on your notifications to, so that YouTube will tell you when I'm on. But I'm gonna just keep on building my skills, doing some reading today, doing some work for clients, doing some work to manage my content, and kind of see where the weekend takes me. How's your weekend going? Where's your weekend headed? I know for some people in the world, Saturday is actually the second day of their weekend and Sunday's the beginning of the week. So maybe you're also getting ready to start your week. Let me know if that's the case. Let me know what you're up to. But I am here. I did some work on my business last night. When you're a business owner, you got to do the marketing, the sales, the accounting. So I was doing some accounting yesterday, all the business side. So I was doing that yesterday. Fridays is when I also usually check in with my clients. So I was doing all my client check-ins, which I enjoy because it's always nice to hear from everyone. I actually heard from everyone yesterday, which is great. Sometimes there's people who take a little bit longer, but I heard from every single client yesterday. So that's awesome. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. What are you guys doing? What are you up to? Let me know. Let me know what you have going on. Let me know how your weekend's treating you. What are you doing today that's data related? That's what we're doing here. That's why I facilitate this, for all of us to talk about anything that's data related. So let me know. Let me know what you're up to. Are you having a good week? Are you having a good summer? Maybe your summer's already coming to an end. I know for, here in the US, Labor Day is usually considered the end of summer. I know it's going to be cooling down a little bit where I live, which is nice. That's very welcome because it's been a very hot summer. But yeah, I'm just going to be working today on my business as always. Like I said, I stream here on YouTube. And in case you missed the YouTube, you can catch me on Instagram right after this stream because I head over there and run a stream there. But let me know what you're up to. Casual Economist, my good friend, such a great supporter. Really appreciate you. Casual Economist says, it's already cold here. Summer is over. Yeah, Casual Economist, I hear you on that. Somebody told me it's going to be like 61 degrees where I live sometime this week, which is a dramatic drop. So Casual Economist, let me know what is cold for you. How cold is cold? Let me know what you're up to over there. But yeah, apparently we're going to be in the 60s in just a couple days here. So I was really surprised to hear that. Now I say that I'm surprised because, keep in mind that we've been like we were at 100 just like 2 days ago, right? So to go from that to 60 in like a week is like almost literally like cutting the temperature in half, right? But all of that is more reason to stay indoors and just keep on working. Keep on working. So let me know what you're working on. Again, this is the Data Roundtable where I walk in here with no agenda, but the point is for us to talk and share what we're working on and how are you improving? It's all community here, right? So if you're a data professional, let me know what you're up to. Casual Economist says it's 40 to 50 the last couple of days. Oh wow, that is very cold. Jeez, 40s already? Ouch. 40s in the first week of September? That is indeed cold, Casual Economist. So try to stay warm out there because that does indeed sound very, very cold. That means you'll have snow in no time. Jeez. That's crazy, huh? I'm glad I no longer live in a snowy environment. Yeah, so Las Vegas gets snow like every, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but it never stays, it never accumulates, it's never terrible, right? We certainly get snow in the mountains, and I live near the mountains. But yeah, that's pretty cold, casual economist. So I'm sure you have your winter coats out already, which I personally would find frustrating, but people live there. People live in the snow states. So if you're joining us in the chat, let me know that you're out there. Let me know what you're up to. What do you got going on? What do you want to talk about? What is the latest AI tool you've used that you enjoyed? Which ones have let you down? We all have those AI tools that just never lived up to the name, right? So what do you guys got going on? Let me know. Casual Economist says winter coats are for the 30s. Oh well, excuse me. Jeez. Look at you being all tough. I don't put my winter coat on until it's 30. I don't know if that's how you actually say it. That's how I see it. So good for you, tough guy. Philip, welcome. I think it's your first time. Nice to see you. Philip says, weird. It's actually pretty hot in Denmark. Usually it's cold as hell, but not this year at this time. Philip, wow. So you're from Denmark. Awesome. I love having followers all over the world. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Philip, you know what? I've told this to some of my friends, and I'm sorry if it offends some people, but hey, not all global warming is bad, right? Global warming does have its perks. So I know that offends some people, so sorry. But, not all global warming is bad, right? I mean, when I was in New York, it was like 50 degrees in the middle of February. Like who hates that? Like, right? So, Philip, I hear you. Let me know how you feel about it, Philip. But if it's supposed to be cold, but it's actually a little bit on the warmer side, is that a loss? I don't know. Right? Casual Economist says, true, Minnesotans should be in tank tops and shorts still. Yeah, that's true, huh? And we see that here in Las Vegas. We see the winter tourists who, they come here and it'll be like 50 degrees, which is very cold for Las Vegas, and they're loving it, right? Because back home it's like 30, so it's a huge upgrade, right? Bin Lee says, hi. Hey, Bin Lee, how are you? Welcome. Bin Lee, I'm seeing your message coming up as Asian characters. I'm sorry. I wish it was translating on my end. But Bin Lee, welcome. Glad to see you. I think it's your first time, so welcome. Glad you're here. Philip says, definitely agree. We need some global warming in Scandinavia. Yeah, right. I mean, Scandinavia obviously are known for being very cold countries, right? A very cold part of the world, right? So yeah, Philip, I don't know, Philip, I'd love to hear if that's like the prevailing sentiment in those countries, because some people would say, hey, look, this is alarming, like this is proving global warming, right? And I'm not a global warming denier or anything like that. But yeah, like, can you really complain when there's supposed to be snow on the ground and there isn't? Like, there's got to be some people out there saying, well, wait a minute, guys, let's rethink this global warming. Maybe there's some positives here, right? I know for me, I told this story to a friend of mine a couple of months ago where, I love cars. And I'm part of some car clubs, and I was part of a car club in New York. And in New York, they were saying like, oh, it's like when it got to be like October, most people don't like driving their sports cars, right? So they're like, oh, okay, time to put the sports cars away. No more club meets or no more club drives until whatever, May, right? When it would be spring. And I would tell them, I would put it in the group chat. I'd be like, what are you guys talking about? Like, it's 50 degrees in February. We're supposed to get like 2 days of snow this year. Like what you did in the past doesn't always apply now, right? Because it kind of stays a little bit warmer throughout the year, right? So, I don't know, guys. Like I said, not all aspects of global warming are bad, right? Casual Economist says the last 6 years it's been pretty warm for winters here. Yeah, right? I mean, Casual Economist, what do you guys think up there? Like, is anybody complaining about that? Like, like I said, I'm not trying to deny global warming, and you can obviously point to different things like that, but like, is anybody complaining? I don't know. So let me know if you guys have like a prevailing sentiment over there. Philip or Casual Economist. Some parts maybe aren't so terrible, right? Philip says, yeah, it's always cold, but because of the wet climate we have, it feels a lot warmer in the summer here. Like 20 degrees Celsius here would feel the same as 32 Celsius in a dry climate. Okay. Philip, I had seen a video about that, and I was talking about that with somebody else recently. I think what you're describing is what they call the wet bulb effect. Have you guys heard about this? So, Philip, I think that's what you're describing, where there are parts of the world that are going to experience what they call wet bulb temperatures, where it says that it should be, warm, but still tolerable. But the way it feels to you is significantly higher, right? So, you guys are smart, so maybe you in the chat know better than I do. But I believe that's what it's called, the wet bulb effect, because there's wet bulb and there's dry bulb. And, if you live in the deserts where it's like a dry climate, the heat is what it is, right? But in wet bulb areas or climates, it does act like what you're describing there, Philip. So Philip says, but we're having huge problems with floods just like the rest of the world. Not all parts of the world. Where I live, we'd welcome a flood. We need water where I live. But yeah, obviously there are some parts of the world that are experiencing a lot of flooding, but we would welcome it where I live. Philip says, sounds true. Yeah, Philip. I mean, I think that's what you're describing. I mean, I'm not trying to put myself out there as a weather expert, obviously, but I think you're describing that wet bulb effect. It's something about how like the moisture in the air actually ends up trapping the heat, which in turn raises more heat, and it kind of has like this, like almost like a snowball effect, right? But yeah, it's interesting times for sure, guys. Interesting times. But I'd welcome a flood where I live. It is dry where I live. We're always worried about what do you call it? Droughts and things like that, water shortages in my area. Philip says, yeah, it's like you have tropical, subtropic, and desert. Yeah, absolutely, Philip. I live in a desert area. I've lived in desert communities for, the greater part of the last 20 years or so. Yeah, 20 years. But yeah, I love living in the desert, but it is very dry. I mean, I think you can see some dryness on my skin, right? The summers out here are very dry, so you end up getting stuff like that. But yeah. So Philip, you haven't told us about your data background. Let us know. Let us know if you're interested in talking about anything data related or whatever you guys want. Right. The whole purpose of this is to have an open discussion. So Philip, welcome. You've been a great addition to the chat today. I think it's your first time, so welcome. Casual Economist says, I'm not denying climate warmer, but is there a study to reference? I don't know, Casual Economist. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what those studies actually look like. A couple years ago, I read some interesting commentary. And again, not trying to stir up anything here, but there was an interesting commentary out there that talked about how people assume that we have these fantastic weather records that go back years and centuries and centuries, right? And the reality is that we don't. The modern thermometer, to like in consistent production, right? And where you could say like, hey, we have like consistent records. It wasn't just something somebody wrote down or they thought about, or a thermometer they made, but we know commercial like production grade thermometers. Do you know how long they've been around? They've been around less than 100 years, right? So I did hear that argument that says that we think we know what the temperatures have been in the past and we can infer them. But if you're going from a data view, you can only go back about 100 years. And even then, it wasn't always daily records, right? Like you're not going to have daily for 100 years, right? Like early on, it was a little bit more sporadic. But I did hear that argument, right? That people think like, oh, well, we have weather records going back thousands of years, and we don't. At least not in a reliable way, right? So I think it's an interesting problem from like a data perspective, right? Like how reliable does data have to be in order for us to make very broad statements? Because if you take that one step forward, right? How do we know that we're not in a generally cooling period, right? Or that this is a generally cool period and we're just regressing to the mean of something that should be higher, naturally higher, right? We don't. The data just isn't there. So casual economists, let me know what you think about that. Philip says the agriculture is suffering because either you have too much rain or too dry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't deny the effects, right? You can't deny the effects, Philip, to your point, right? Yeah, you really can't deny them. Philip, let me come back to your comment. But casual economist says, I thought the weather almanacs were super old. They are, but the way they were collecting the data was not necessarily accurate. They're casual economists. Like there was nobody in the 1700s sitting there with a production grade thermometer taking down temperatures on an hourly basis, right? Like I'm pretty sure that's the case. At least that's the argument this article is making, right? But like they were talking like production level, like reliable thermometers, because yes, there could be records from the past, and I think it was who was it? I think it was didn't Galileo make the first atmospheric barometer? I think it was Galileo, right? Or was it Galileo or Da Vinci? I think it was Galileo, right? But again, this is stuff like they were making at home, right? They were thinking, oh, we kind of think that this is the scale for temperature, right? But I'm talking like reliable, like scientifically sound records. Yeah, so let me come back. So Philip says, awesome to join and meet you. Currently, I can't study or work because of severe depression, but my passion is business, and I don't really do other stuff than read or watch stuff about business. All right, cool, Philip. So Philip, obviously we want to wish you the best, but we have a great community here where we talk about data and business and weather, apparently. So yeah, if you want to keep on coming back, you'll find a community here. You're certainly welcome. You can also follow me on Instagram because when I stop here, I go over to Instagram and, we talk there. But yeah, Philip, happy you're here, and anything we can help you with, just let us know. So Philip also adds, but the future for business is AI, agents, and all that awesome stuff. It is. It is, Philip. Lots of transformations for business and other industries are definitely coming up ahead. Philip says there's a lot of research and proof of climate. There is, Philip, but again, this article I was reading was basically making the statement that the most reliable data is not as old as you think it is, right? So yes, there is a lot of research in climate, but a lot of that is kind of heavily weighted to the last like 50 years, right? Like basically like the space race, right? Because we didn't have weather satellites until we had space, right? Or, the rockets to go into space, right? So you can't say we had weather satellites for hundreds of years, right? So, like, yeah, there's data out there, but is it reliably, like, scientifically sound data? So yeah, I think that's the counterpoint that article was trying to make. That, well, how reliable is it? We can make inferences, right? There's definitely a lot of inferential data out there, and like some of these almanacs that Casual Economist is talking about. But like solid, scientifically sound, collected on very good scientific instruments type of data, it's not nearly as old as people think it is. So that's the argument that article was making. I thought it was an interesting view, right? It's always good to have contrary views, right? Because I'm sure that they weren't, denying it either. But where's the data? Or how are we getting that data, right? It's a valid question. It's a valid question. So always enjoy that on YouTube we have these elevated conversations, right? I love that about YouTube and the audience that joins here. Still love the audience on Instagram, but it is interesting. Casual Economist says AI needs to build a time machine. Yeah, maybe, maybe. That's also an interesting topic, Casual Economist, and I wish I was better educated on it. But I think I was hearing a podcast that was talking about how we'll probably have a time machine that goes forward before we have a time machine that goes backwards. I can't remember exactly what the rationale was, but there's something about how it's more plausible for us to go forward in time than it is for us to go backwards in time. So that could be interesting, right? If we do end up being able to send people to the future. Or have you guys heard that saying, or that, not that saying, but that theory that aliens and UFOs aren't from other space, they're from the future, they're just time travelers? I'm sure you guys have heard that one, right? That's a popular theory, right? That these aliens are coming back to warn us. They're not coming from other planets, they're coming from other times. So I always thought that was interesting. Philip says, agree, but we only had the technology recently to research. One awesome way to do research is to dig deep in ice and then they see CO2 levels, etc. Right now, I'm looking for the optimal way to develop apps, products, and a lot can't seem to be justified with GPT, Replit, etc. Okay, so Philip, those are two different thoughts that I read concurrently. But yeah, Philip, but the thing is that when you're talking about those holes and the CO2 and the layers, the layers of ice and old rocks, that's all still inferential data, right? I mean, those are actually very classic examples of inferential data. It's very good inferential data. But again, if you wanted to increase the scientific rigor, you would say, okay, well, but that's not a commercially produced, reliable thermometer, right? Just like if I had my own little weather station at home, nobody's going to buy that data or rely on that data because, it's just my own little personal weather station, right? We demand that science is done on calibrated, professional grade instruments, right? So I think that's what they were saying, right? So Philip, as far as your way to develop apps, we're still in early days. We're still in early days, my friend, right? So I think that in a year and a half, 2 years, you won't be able to make that statement because there will be good app development tools, right? And that's what I really encourage a lot of people to think about. A lot of people say, oh, well, it doesn't work today, so it'll never work. Those people don't understand how quickly neural networks learn. So the neural networks and the tools that they create will definitely learn and get a lot better really, really fast. So stay tuned there, Philip. Don't give up yet. Don't give up. But it's not that you can't do it. You're just early. You're just early. AI is going to be a great tool in science. Absolutely. Absolutely. It already is in many ways. I'm extremely excited for the day it's possible to do AI on quantum computing. Ooh. Philip, you had me at AI. You lost me at quantum computing, my friend. I am not a fan of quantum computing. I think it's a big boondoggle, personally. I don't know, guys. Have you read what it takes to run these quantum machines? Like I just don't see it. I don't see it on a broad scale. I just don't. I mean, if you read about what it takes and what they go through and all that stuff, it's very difficult to imagine a time where we'll have like a desktop quantum machine, right? Like that's basically never going to happen. Like it's basically, the way I see it, it's almost literally impossible, right? Like quantum machines will never be available to the masses. They'll probably, the sad reality I think is that they'll probably just be kept away in some labs. They'll be highly nationalized, right? They'll basically be like massive weapons at the country versus country level. Right, but they'll never be like a large scale deployment. Hey, AWS now has quantum computing available. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Quantum is ridiculously hard. I think the record for the longest stable running is only one millisecond. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Philip. Like if you read that last Google report, because remember Google had some sort of success recently, or was it Microsoft? No, I think it was Microsoft. Excuse me. But did you see that? How, I mean, yes, it was for a very short time. It was at some ridiculously low temperature, right? Because they had to be kept extremely cool. And they were saying, like, for them to have had that successful test, like every single molecule on the planet had to be in the exact frozen position that it was in order for that test to happen. Like if one little molecule on the other side of the earth had been off, like the whole test would have been a failure, right? Like they're writing this in their report, like that's their conclusion, right? Not some outsider. So to me, it's like how are you going to scale that? Like, just doesn't make sense. Casual Economist says, I believe I'll play Fortnite on my quantum gaming machine next year. Casual Economist, you are welcome to put as much of a wager as you want on that with me. I am happy to take that wager. We'll never have quantum machines like on your desktop, right? Or, hey guys, have you seen my new quantum computing laptop? I just don't see it. The scalability is not there, right? The requirements to run them are too high. So I think they're going to be like basically like these nuclear weapons that are kept away in some lab or something, right? I just don't see them being like large availability. Philip says, but the good question is if the supercomputers can keep improving, as I see right now, it's primarily a question of enough tensor AI cores. Yeah, absolutely, Philip. You know, you could also make that argument, right? That very few problems on the planet, you know, problems that have good intent and really need quantum computing, right? We've gotten pretty far with GPU levels or GPU level of processing, right? And maybe there'll be other things beyond GPUs that are still going to be great, but not quantum, but still an improvement, right? We'd have to presume that, right? Moore's law and all that, right? So yeah, maybe we don't need quantum, right? But again, that's also part of my fear, right? That quantum will be used for some things that aren't so positive. They'll just be like put away in labs, government access only, very strict requirements on who can access it, right? That's the way I see it. But who knows? I'm happy to be wrong. Happy to be wrong on that. But you never can tell what the future holds, right? And, you know, maybe we just don't have that many problems that require that level of computing. I think you might be able to make that argument, right? So yeah. So guys, great discussion. Really appreciate everybody that's joined in. I'm gonna hop over to Instagram, see what's going on over there. Feel free to join me over there. But as always, you know, want to welcome Philip for being our new member today. I stream every day. Come back and join me. So as always, please take care of yourselves. Take care of your families, and I will see you guys again tomorrow.